Republicans are about to mark a month in the House majority, but since they won back the House in November, they've been pretty clear about what their top priorities are for governing. No, not much about cutting inflation, nothing about immigration reform, not even tackling crime. This is what House Speaker Kevin McCarthy really couldn't wait to announce, wait to do.
You've talked in the past about removing ILHAN Omar. You've talked about removing Adam Schiff, about Eric Swalwell. Will you deliver?
Look, Congresswoman Omar, her anti-Semitic comments that have gone forward, we're not going to allow her to be on foreign affairs.
By the way, Maria, it's Elon Musk and ILHAN Omar. McCarthy, of course, says he's going after Congresswoman Omar because of her quote-unquote anti-Semitism. That's what he says, at least. But could there be a subtext that McCarthy won't say out loud? Because there are things being said out loud.
ILHAN Omar is not exactly making a compelling case that the mass infusion of Somali immigrants are able to assimilate successfully into Western constitutional republic tradition in life. Not exactly. ILHAN Omar is the mascot for why we need to have an immigration moratorium in our country.
Thank you, conservative pundit Charlie Kirk, for being open with your racism and reminding us that the right doesn't hate Congresswoman Omar because of her politics or ideology. The right hates her because she's a black, hijab-wearing Muslim refugee from Africa. That's why she's top of mind for Speaker McCarthy and for Charlie Kirk and for the rest of the far-right peanut gallery. So now the real question is, can McCarthy boot Congresswoman Omar off of the Foreign Affairs Committee? He's already ousted Adam Schiff and Eric Swalwell from the House Intelligence Committee, but that was different. The Speaker has unilateral power to keep members off select committees like Intel. But the Foreign Affairs Committee doesn't work the same way. McCarthy will need to hold a vote of the full House, secure support from a majority of the full House in order to block Omar's position on that committee. And we already know securing House votes is a challenge for 14-time loser Kevin McCarthy. And interestingly, there's already dissent in his ranks. Some Republican representatives say they aren't on board with removing Congresswoman Omar from the Foreign Affairs Committee.
Will you join the Speaker if, as he says he will, he kicks ILHAN Omar off of the Foreign Relations Committee? Because that will require a vote. Will you vote to kick her off of that committee?
Well, I'm going to see what is happening, but if he is not going to have a proper due process, I cannot be a hypocrite and support this. So we'll see what Speaker McCarthy is going to decide. I know there is a lot of bad blood and really, anger from Speaker Pelosi were done. But as I said, two wrongs don't make a right.
Congresswoman Victoria Spartz isn't the only Republican voicing concerns. South Carolina Republican Nancy Mace has also said she would vote against booting Omar off from committee assignments. But Mace has a history of saying one thing and voting another. We'll see. It's certainly reassuring to see even some House Republicans standing up for the Congresswoman. And it looks like there's some hope McCarthy will lose this battle. But unfortunately, I doubt this loss will be the end of the GOP's racially and religiously motivated war against Congresswoman ILHAN Omar. Joining me now, the Congresswoman herself, ILHAN Omar, Democrat from Minnesota. She serves currently on the Foreign Affairs Committee and is the vice chair of the Subcommittee on Africa, Global Health, Global Human Rights and International Organizations. Congresswoman, thanks for coming back on the show. On Wednesday, you quote tweeted something I had posted about the committee removals, and you wrote of Republicans, quote, "They just hate an African refugee who is Muslim having the power to shape policy in our country." We showed a recent poll that Republicans have a minus 42% approval of Islam. The only religions they rank lower are Scientology and Satanism. Is this committee fight all about Republican Party Islamophobia?
It certainly is. If you listen to what Charlie was saying, if you recall what Marjorie Taylor Greene said in 2019 about Rashida and I creating Muslim invasion in Congress and government, if you remember what Donald Trump himself, when he came to Minnesota, said about Somali Muslim refugees.
Yes.
It is clear that McCarthy is practicing new McCarthyism. These people are xenophobic, they're racist, and their hate is on display. We have never had members removed from a committee because there's a disagreement on policy. We are not supposed to be a monolith as a body here in Congress. Every single member is elected by their constituents to represent the voices of those constituents. And many of my constituents elected me to Congress to be a voice on the Foreign Affairs Committee. I've won 3 elections campaigning that is what I was going to do, and they continue to re-elect me.
Specifically on House Speaker Kevin McCarthy, he says you're an anti-Semite. Do you believe he's an Islamophobe?
I certainly do. And, you know, to the anti-Semitism accusations, you know, I certainly care about the Jewish community. I certainly care about my Jewish colleagues. When it was brought to my attention that the things that I've said trafficked tropes, I apologized. That is the kind of person that I am. Now, when it comes to McCarthy, Emmer, and Scalise, they've been accused of anti-Semitism. Marjorie Taylor Greene, there's so many of them that have been accused of anti-Semitism. They haven't apologized. They don't care about the Jewish community, their feelings, or the rise of anti-Semitism. You know, they're leading the charge in white supremacy and constantly talk about replacement theory that endangers the lives of the Jewish community here in the U.S. And so for them to smear me, single me out, target me, and marginalize my voice really is only about the fact that I am Muslim, I am Black, I'm African, which I'm proud of, and so many people are as well.
I was surprised to see some Republicans say they may go against their party leader and not vote to remove you from committee. Are you surprised that there are Republicans who are on your side on this?
I'm not surprised. I believe that there are Republicans who don't want to be seen as hypocrites to their constituents. I hope, and that remains, I hope that stays true, and they do not take a vote to remove me when they have not taken a vote to remove other members within their conference.
So let's talk about your work on the Foreign Affairs Committee. You've been vocal on a multiplicity of foreign policy issues. You are deputy chair of the House Progressive Caucus. Progressives and other Democrats have been at odds over the U.S. approach in Ukraine. There was that letter last fall from the Congressional Progressive Caucus, the CPC, pushing for diplomacy with Moscow, which was quickly retracted. What is your reaction this week to President Biden's decision to send 31 M1 Abrams tanks to Ukraine? Do you have concerns about escalation, or do you think it's the right thing to do?
I do have concerns about escalation. I have concerns about the lives that are being lost as well in Ukraine. I think it is important for us to help in whatever way that we can, but we have to do that cautiously, and we have to make sure that our involvement and the support that we are giving does not prolong this war.
Congressman, you were one of 77 Democrats who also wrote to President Biden on Thursday asking him to reverse his expansion of Title 42 and his proposed plan to make it harder to qualify for asylum at the border. Why do you think the White House, which has made progressive noises about immigration — Joe Biden ran on I will treat immigrants better than Donald Trump did — why is the White House doing this?
I think, you know, the White House has said it is because of the current situation. And you are right to point out the fact that President Biden campaigned on having moral and humane immigration policy, and we have to hold him accountable to that promise. As an immigrant, as someone who fled war, my family was welcomed in Kenya, a neighboring country. No one called us an alien. No one denied our right as humans to seek asylum. And I want to make sure that this president or any president in the United States is not denying anyone their right to seek asylum.
Congresswoman, you and I, one last question. You and I have spoken in the past many times about Islamophobia in America, how you have become a lightning rod for a lot of right-wing Islamophobia. Although Islamophobia is not just found on the right, there's a lot of liberal Islamophobia too. In the wake of 9/11, in the wake of al-Qaeda and the rise of ISIS, it was a big topic of discussion. In recent years, less so. Although this week, when I saw that YouGov poll that I mentioned at the start of the interview, that shows Republican attitudes to Islam are still so overwhelmingly negative. Literally, Satanists and Scientologists are the only people below Islam in their eyes. What do you make of that? What can be done about that? Are they a lost cause, the conservative right-wing movement, when it comes to Islam and Muslims? How do you beat back that tide of Islamophobia, more than 20 years after 9/11?
Well, the only way to fight hate is with love. And we, as Muslims here in the United States, and in the West, have to love ourselves enough to stand up for ourselves and for our faith, for our beliefs and what it brings to humanity. If we shy away and diminish our positions in the public discourse, then this level of hate will continue to increase. And I hope, today we had a press conference honoring the 6th anniversary of the Muslim ban and talking about the harm and damage it caused. I think it is really important for us to continuously be vocal when it comes to talking about Islamophobia and fighting against the hateful policies that come because of it.
Appreciate you being vocal on these issues. Congresswoman Omar, thank you so much for your time, as ever.
Thank you.